let's look at some of the types and expressions from Chapter 8. So in this chapter, what we're going to do is that we're going to look at variables, how they're declared. We'll actually use some of these and see how they're used. So in Java, what we have are primitive types and reference types. Java's primitive types. So there are bytes, which are small integers, so small that the range is just from minus 128 to 127. Short, rarely used integer, int, is what we normally use. Long, if there's a really long integer that we need to use. Float, a less precise floating point number. What we use instead is a double. And this is in case we're not worried about the amount of space that we're taking up in the computer's memory. Boolean is just a true or false data type. A char, or character, is a single character. Okay. Let's look at integers and double data types first. And we'll declare some of those. We'll take a look at the math methods and see how those work. Character data types, Boolean. Reference type, we'll look at those a little bit for now. String data types. And performing input and output. And formatting our output. And looking at mathematical expressions. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start something. So I'll use NetBeans for this example. However, Eclipse is almost exactly the same. Small differences on how you create the project. So I'm going to create a file, new project. And it's a Java application. And next. So that's going to be the project name, but I'm going to rename it to something a little more descriptive. And Java practice. I want to make sure that I know where it's being saved at, and mine is being saved in the NetBeans folder. I'm going to create a main class, and that's about it. Click finish, and I'm going to add comments. I can use these block comments, and a block comment starts with the /* and ends with the */. And I can put in my name, whatever the class is, and the assignment. And this one's just Java practice. Okay. I'm going to get rid of these generated comments. Don't need those, and they're messy. I'm going to move this curly brace down, and again I'm going to get rid of these comments. Okay. curly brace down. So now it's pretty easy to see that once I've got a package and I've called it Java Practice. Inside of my package right now I just have one class and I'm calling it Java Practice. Inside of that one class I have just one method, and that one is the main method. So this is where my coding was going to start for now. It's going to start inside of this one main method. So I can put a single line comment here that says start coding here. Now from time to time I will be adding on different packages and other things outside of this class, but for now I'm just going to start the coding here. And a good way to start the coding is to test my program. So I'm going to do, let's see if this will work. Yeah, S out, tab, and let me try something. How about hello world? Let's see if that works. So one of the ways I can do it is I can click on my run button here, or I can right click and run the file, and it builds it. The build was successful and it ran. Here's the output of the code. Okay, so I seem to be in good shape for now. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to add some comments to that, just as a kind of an outline of notes of things that I want to cover. So I'm going to pop these in here. Move those over a bit. I already looked at comments. Take that one out. I did the hello world. Since I don't have to turn mine in, I'm not going to leave all these in my program. Okay. How about this one? Let's start creating an integer. And an integer is a whole number. So I'm going to say integer, and then I need to come up with some name. It needs to be a legal name that the computer won't complain about. So I'm not going to start with a number or a special character. I'll just call it integer 1. Okay. And on the next line, what I'm going to say is integer 1, and I'm going to assign a number to it. Okay, so no problem with that. Let me do this. I'm going to say instead of 34, I'm going to assign the value 34.234. Gives me a red squiggly line. Okay. Make that a little larger. Let me see. Pull that over. Okay. Might be a little easier to see. Gives me a red squiggly line, and it says incompatible types, possibly loss of precision from double to integer data type. Here's what that means, is that we created an integer data type, we gave it some legal name, and now we want to assign a number in there. What this first statement does is that it goes into the computer's memory, And I'm going to say the computer's memory is like in a spreadsheet. Each one of these would be a memory location, and we can assign anywhere in here, or the computer automatically will assign locations for us in the computer's memory. But in the computer's memory, what we did is that we went in and we blocked out an area, and we said that this location is going to be called int1, and this location can only hold integer values. So I can only put in whole numbers in there. And if I try to put in some double data type values, it will complain about that. So I need to make sure that I only put whole numbers in there. Okay. Let's do the same thing for a double data type. And call it DVL1. And this one, we can assign a decimal data type to that. You notice I did this all in one line. Now, because I don't have much room on the screen here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these up a bit. So I'm going to move this up to this line, and I'm going to move those both up to this line. Saves me a little room. This semicolon at the end of my statement means that that's the end of that statement. So this white space in here is just discounted or ignored. As long as you have that semicolon saying that's the end of my statement, your compiler is good. It's okay with that. Okay. How about a Boolean data type? Oops. Boolean data type, and let's call it bool1. And let's not only do that, but let's assign a value to that. And a Boolean data type is just true or false. So let's see what a true or false would look like in this case. So I'm going to say, is the number 5 less than, and these are my comparison symbols, is the number 5 less than the number 10? And just to be safe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in parentheses. Oops. And I need my semicolon on the end of that. Okay. And my last one is going to be a character data type, and I'm going to call it char1. And I'm going to assign a value to that. And here I need to use special characters, and I'm going to use an apostrophe for that. And how about if I use the character A? Okay. Oops. Semicolon. Okay. All right. Let's do a sys out and see what that each one of these looks like. And I'm going to say integer, and now I'm going to use a concatenation symbol, and I'm going to say the value of int t1, concatenation symbol, also known as a plus sign, and I'm going to display the double data type, and that's dbl1, and then I'm going to continue on and do the other two. Okay. And so I'm going to display the integer value, the double data type. Oops, missing the Boolean data type. And if I look here, I notice that it says that I've declared this, but I'm not using it. So I should have looked for that green squiggly line to see that I wasn't using that, and go ahead and put that in here. Do control space bar and do, there it is. And then character data type. Let's go ahead and run that. Okay. And I guess what I could have done is put a space in front of each one of these. Oops. Let's try that again. Integer double Boolean is true, and the character is A. Okay. Let's see what we've got next. I'm going to create a double data type and call it DBL expression, and I'm going to assign to that a mathematical expression. Now it doesn't mind that, but actually these numbers right now are integer data types. They're whole numbers, right? And I'm said that this is a double. So what I want to do is I want to convert these over to double data types with a decimal value. Decimal value is 0, but okay. And I'm going to display that result. DBL expression, there it is. I'm doing control spacebar. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run that. And that's the result of that expression. Now, will that expression change if what it is that the first thing that is calculated on these, and this is the same way if you're taking a math class, is that the first thing that will calculate is multiplication and division. So this would compute first, and then this, and then it would go from, and it's going from left to right, and then it would go to addition and subtraction. Okay. So let's change this. Oops. And put parentheses around that. And compile and run that again. And we get the same value. Yeah, yes. Well, let's try it this way. Okay. And then run this, and we get a different value because of where we placed our parentheses. Okay. Well, let's see what else we've got. Let's, in your textbook, they go over, there's a lot of code that's already written for you, that's already in your Java, in your runtime. And so we take advantage of that often. And one of the things that we've got is something called a math class. And with that, it has several different methods that we have access to. In fact, a lot. And it shows us what some of those are. How about if we try ceiling? Well, C-E-I-L. And I want a double digit type. How about if I go with 5.11, and let's see what that prints out to be. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and instead of rounding off to 5, it goes to the next highest number, and that would be the ceiling. So go ahead and try some of these and see what those values are. Try different methods or properties, apply method or the random method or some of those, and see what those do. Okay, well, let's try one more thing. Strings are a little bit different than the primitive data types that we use. They're called reference types, and let's see the difference. Let's see, where's my with a primitive data type here, we declared an integer and then we stored an integer value in there. But with a string is a string of characters, so it would be so that string would be all of these together, and this says hello world, by the way. So it would go into the computer's memory and it would block out all of these bytes of memory for that one string variable. So it's not just one location, it really points you to a particular location in the computer's memory, or it references a particular location in the computer's memory. Take a look at that. Let's go ahead and create a string. Let's say string data type str hello, and now I'm going to assign, and now I'm going to use double quotes. Remember, in character we use single quotes, in chars or characters we use single quotes. Here I'm going to use double quotes. I'm going to say hello world, and at the end of that put my semicolon. Okay, so now S out, tab, and I'm going to say str there we go, string hello. Okay, go ahead and run that. And it prints out whatever was stored in that variable called str hello, that string. Let me see if it'll let me do this from inside the print statement. Kind of make a little shortcut here. So string hello is actually a reference variable, and when we do that, what we have access to, I'm going to put a period after that, and you see that I've got a bunch of properties and methods that go along with string. And one of them that I want to look at about length. There it is. Parentheses on the end of that. Okay. So now what it's going to do is print out the length, or how many characters are in that string. And run that. And it prints out 11 characters. Now there's also there are just a lot of methods that you can use with that. Substring is one of them. I could chop out certain characters in this string. But if I do that, here. Let's do that. Okay, first let's run that and see how many there are in there. There are 20 characters in that string, and let's see, what's the syntax on? Is it substring? And it wants to know okay, apparently not. So let's do it this way. I'm gonna and see what there it is. Sub string. And it looks like what I had. Oh, starting location and okay, where I want to start, and okay. Let's start at 2, 5. Okay. And let's see if you can see what that will do. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. Right click, run file. 2, 3, 4. Where did you get that from? And substring was 2, 5. So how did it get 2, 3, 4? How did it chop that out of that substring? And remember, computers start counting at 0. Okay. I'll let you do that. And this looks like the last thing we'll be doing. Let's I'm going to start off with this, but I'm going to change this from print line to print F. And then let's take a look at this. Let's see, what have we got? What variables do we have to? Let's display int1 and double1. Okay, so I'm going to say display int1 and L1. I'm going to use special characters here to pull these in, though. And for an integer data type, it's going to be a %d. And for a double data type, it's going to be a %f. Okay, but now I need to say what it is I'm pulling in. So after the double quotes, I'm going to put a comma in there, and I'm going to put in, let's do control space bar, int1, comma, dbl, dbl1. All right, go ahead and run this and see what it looks like. Display int1, and apparently the value is 34, and double one is 42 point. Okay. Here's the good thing about formatting, though, is that instead of just formatting, just displaying the value, what I can do is I can actually format this thing, and I can say 0.2. And let's see what that does. So here's what we had this time. Let's run this again. And this is what we have this time. And you'll notice that it formatted it for 2 decimal places. And I can also format it for, let's say, see what that does. Run that. And this time it formatted it for 10 spaces. So this took up 10 spaces. I could do it on this one too if I wanted to. So that would take up 10 spaces too. Okay. There are times when we may want to read information in from the keyboard into our program, and we have a handy way of doing that. If it will let me, what I want to do is get rid of some of this stuff. Okay, and so there's a special command that I can use, which is there's a scanner class, and it has a bunch of programs in there already built in that we can use, and what we can do is that we can create something called an object out of that, and I'm going to call it keyboard. And what it does is it goes into the computer's memory and blocks out a place in there and says, okay, go to that, create a scanner object, and pass into that the system.in, or where to access the keyboard at. And it's giving me red squiggly lines because it says it can't find that. Well, what I need to do is that I need to include this into my program because it's in a bit of code that doesn't normally come with. There it is. It doesn't normally come with my code. So I need to import it or include it with my program. So once I did that, it was okay with that. So what can I do with that? Well, let's see what I can do. I can read information in from the keyboard. Put some code in there to, by the way, I want to format my code real quick because it's starting to get a little sloppy. Let's see, Alt-Shift-F, that does it. Okay, cleans it up a little bit for me. Here's what I've done. I've said, go ahead and print out this string, whatever's between these double quotes, and it's going to say dash what is making that sound, and then I said print instead of print line, so it's going to stop on that line and wait for me to type something in. And then it's going to accept input from the keyboard and store it into sound source. So, and this, whoops. So, okay. Yeah, let's see what that does. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run this. And then I need to come here to my output window, what is making that sound. Click down here so that I can type it in and say okay, and when I press the enter key, it paused right here. How about if I put this right up here? Does it look better if I put it there, and that way you can see that it prints that out, and then it's waiting for the input, and then after it's typed in, then I print it out down here. So it was waiting for me to type this in, and then after I pressed the enter key, it printed that out and then ended the program. Okay, that's all the practice for now, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. Oh wait, I need to make sure that I know where this program is saved at. Then I'm going to go into, I'm using Windows, so I'm going to go track down where this is at. And let me see if I remember where this is at. File, project properties. Okay, so it's in NetBeans project, Java practice. Okay, cancel that. So I'm going to use Windows Explorer to find it. So navigated to it in Windows Explorer, and there it is. I can right click, send to a compressed zip folder, rename that. Okay, all right, I'm ready to upload that. All right, that'll do.